Welcome to AEW Unrestricted, the official podcast of All Elite Wrestling. This is referee and podcast host Aubrey Edwards, here with commentator and podcast host Tony Schiavone. How you doing, Tony?
Hey, Aubrey. What's up, girl?
What's up? Hey, boy.
Hey, good to be talking to you. Good to be here with you once again this week. We have a lot of fun. We've talked to a variety of different people that are involved with our AEW business, so it's great connecting with you once again.
Oh, yeah. Who else we got here today talking with us?
We got our buddy Matt Sydal here with us. Hey, Matt.
Hey, guys.
Hell yeah. I'm so excited for this one.
Matt has a long and luxurious list of accomplishments, championships in wrestling, which Aubrey Edwards will read down right now. Always hit her with that, but go ahead, Aubrey.
Yeah,
Okay.
why don't you just read from my Wikipedia page? It makes for a great interview. We could
It does.
just read it off. I mean, it's the audio version of the Wikipedia.
It really is. It saves you a click. Let's see, Dragon Gate, Open the Brave Gate champion, two-time NWA Midwest X Division champion, IWA Mid-South Light Heavyweight champion, OVW Heavyweight champion, ROH World Tag Team champion, WWE Tag Team champion with Kofi Kingston. You won a Slammy, probably your best crowning achievement.
I agree.
IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champion, Never Openweight 6-Man Tag Team Champion, Impact Grand Champion, Impact X Division Champion, and 2008 Wrestling Observer Newsletter's Best Flying Wrestler. I'd agree with that.
Good stuff. Any of those resonate with you there, Matt?
Besides the Slammy.
Oh, wow. I mean, we go all over the world with those accomplishments. It's pretty awesome hearing it back. Yeah, I really don't measure my career by like championships won or these kind of moments. However, that first Slammy was everything to me because watching Owen Hart and what he did with his Slammies was just a huge part of my love of pro wrestling. So taking that Slammy home, which I actually didn't do, I never even got the Slammy.
Oh,
That's
Like,
bullshit.
hey, the prop's a prop.
Oh,
So yeah, I never got the Slammy.
I would at least figure out where they made them and get a replica made.
Yeah,
Or you could go to the merch booth and buy one.
for me, it was nice to get that accomplishment, but really being able to do the shooting star in WWE was a huge feat because when I began there, it was a banned move. It was on this list of things do not try. It was against the rules, and I was able to not only break the rules and start doing the shooting star press, I was able to turn that into finisher of the year or whatever, move of the year, and won a Slammy.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. I felt really like I was onto something right there.
Yeah, damn. Especially with all of these flips and stuff. We have to talk about Snoop's Frog Splash because I remember before the show we're all sitting around. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? And they pull out the mat, lay down Serpentico, and all of a sudden Snoop's just jumping off the top rope. Did you give him any advice on how to do it?
Yes, my advice was very explicit. Wear knee pads.
Yes.
That was my main advice, but I don't think he did. I don't believe he did. I think he just went freestyle. He just wanted to do the Superfly Snuka that he remembered from the Garden, and he got to hit a Snoop splash, and it was awesome. It was a true, it was a beautiful television moment for me. I'm really, really proud to be there and to watch him go off. I mean, there was that moment of you get to the top rope and you look down and you realize how high it's going to be when you stand up. And I'll tell you what, Snoop Dogg has a lot of courage, and he's a special guy. He stood all the way up and launched himself and did the best splash he could.
There you go. Do the best you can.
Yeah, me and Snoop, we get high.
Right, there you go.
Fly high. Fly, not get.
I think that's the highest Snoop's ever been.
Hey, that's a direct quote from him.
Got you. You also had a great match with Cody, and I want to talk about that because you guys really told a great story in that match.
Thank you. What was the what story did you tell in that match?
Let's see. You're right, JR. You're right, Excalibur, I think is what I said.
That's what you say every time, Tony.
I think that's what I got out. And you're right, Jericho. I think I got those out too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's great. I think my story with Cody is definitely not at the end. It's an ongoing thing.
Right.
I really feel like we are there's I'll always end up getting to some kind of weird Zen take on things, but he and I are really a yin and a yang. But the point is the yin and the yang are the same thing. They're part of the whole. And so when we collide in the ring, it's somebody who was raised in the business to somebody who was a backyard wrestler. And then we sort of cross paths at OVW, but not for long enough where we were able to like work together or work against each other. So right now we're both coming into our own, having our best matches. I think this TNT championship is bringing out the best in a lot of guys. I think it brought out the best in Darby Allin. And I think this is where I need to narrow my focus. Like, that championship has a lot of meaning and prestige to it. And it is absolutely one of the main reasons I'm in AEW right now.
So would you say that's one of your goals moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. That's not a New Year's resolution. That's part of like what I've been meditating on and thinking on, and like thinking what it would feel like to be the champion, what it would feel like to have that responsibility, what it would feel like to be a champion in AEW. And so I focus on what it would feel like, and then I'm just going to do the work and get myself there. And the only problem is guys like Cody are already doing the work extremely hard. And so it's a new environment for me. So I'm really acclimating myself, but I have no doubt in my ability to become that TNT champion.
Matt, your coming into AEW was a kind of a surprise. I think you were like the Joker in the Casino Battle Royale All Out 2020. And was that kind of a last minute thing to bring you in, if I recall correctly?
Yes, that was absolutely a last minute thing. I think I got the call on Friday and the pay-per-view was Saturday.
Right.
Yeah, however, it worked. It was relatively short notice, and it sounded like a great opportunity and a good way to get the ball rolling. And we got our foot in the door right there. And
sure.
That led to some more work. I wrestled Eddie Kingston on Dynamite, Sean Spears on that late night dark. So I've had my hands full since the All Out Battle Royal.
Right. And how long was it after the Battle Royal where you got officially signed? It wasn't too long after that, right?
It was a little while, but I mean, I'm old school enough to be on a handshake and hey, see you next week kind of thing.
Sure.
But it was really nice. I think it was literally like 11/11 of 2019 when I got the paperwork, and we just, we were able to work out a deal. And I mean, since I started in pro wrestling, like, I was never a guy who goal was to be in the WWE. I always wanted to be a part of a startup. When I started at GCW, Gateway Championship Wrestling, in 1999, we wanted to take us from cable access to local TV, and then from local TV to a cable show. We wanted to grow ourselves into like an ECW, and like that's why I've always wanted to be a part of AEW since it began, because it's people creating their own thing. They're doing something really original, and like when I got that call, it's amazing, because there's no direct path to joining AEW. I'm not going to just call up guys and say, hey, can I have a job? What I did was make sure that I'd be ready. I've been doing the work at home, training. I train at my dojo, the Sai Dojo, and I live every single day like I'm a top level, TV ready wrestler, whether I'm on TV or not. And so when I got that call, I guess I might not have been pay-per-view ready, because it was a little rough initiation into AEW, but the one thing about me is I'm quite a tenacious wrestler. I am very resilient, and so I don't just let one slip keep me down.
I love that AEW is the kind of company that takes a moment like that and runs with it. Like, your feud with Nakazawa on Dark was probably one of my favorite matches I've ever done on Dark.
Well, I'm glad you had fun. I think I got a little too hot about it. It's in the end, there were many factors that lead to a fall, but having guys like Nakazawa in the locker room always allow for making lemonade out of some lemons.
So what's it like being in the AEW locker room compared to other places?
Oh my God, I love it. Well, the truth is I don't compare places, because everywhere is just the same, especially when you have the right guys backstage. And then AEW locker room's awesome. There's so many, like, not just matchups that I get, but I also get the benefit of being around these really high level human beings, these really incredible people with like amazing skills outside of wrestling, people who are deep thinkers, people who are quick thinkers, some of the funniest guys ever. So I probably have very much am enjoying my stint in this AEW locker room. I'm really happy. I'm getting really comfortable where I feel like I can be myself. And that's a really special feeling to have, when you feel like accepted as who you are, for who you are. And like, there's just a lot of open-minded people in the locker room. So we all get along. It's been fun. I think there's a lot more great work we're going to create together.
Now, you were actually working in the with the Indies when the pandemic hit, and it kind of shut everything down. Not kind of shut everything down, did shut everything down.
Yeah.
What were those early months of the pandemic like for you?
Yeah, it was like getting the rug pulled out from underneath me. It's because I also have a wrestling school, so this not just affected my travel schedule on the weekends, my weekday schedule as well, and my weekday revenue and my weekend revenue. So yeah, I was about to get on a plane to go to a Ring of Honor show in Vegas, and they called me and said, stay home. And that was the last booking that I had. And thank God ROH paid me for not appearing, because that was the last payday I got up until July or August is when I had like my next match. I did like one seminar in between, but yeah, so it was really challenging times. My girlfriend and I, we make all of my own costumes here. Like we make knee pads and,
fun.
and gear,
Oh.
but this is something we're making for one of my students, Kelsey. It's got rainbow reflective, but so, we did this, and yeah, it was just one of these things where I try not to get too obsessed with the news. I do enjoy my current events. I really enjoy current events. And so I was just really trying to figure out how we can stay safe, keep my family safe, and survive. But I'm very fortunate that there was like the COVID disaster relief came through. We had some local relief. But yeah, it was a really like challenging time. And I set a timeline of, I live in Clearwater, Florida, and we have hurricanes come through. When the hurricane comes, they'll tell you there's a hurricane coming, a disaster coming, and it's sunny out. So you say, how could it be so bad? It's sunny out. Well, so you see the storm come in, it lasts a couple of days, maybe you have a week or more. If there's greater effects, more wind damage, you're going to suffer for more than a week. But it's like, that's the time scale for it. So even though it's not bad, and then there's a time after where you have to clean up. And so COVID is like that, but I sort of put a 3-year time scale on it. And that's a type of thinking not a lot of people do. A lot of people think month to month, week to week, day to day. And I know when I'm traveling like crazy, I can barely think to the next day. I mean, I'm barely getting 72 hours of planning ahead because everything's on the fly and running and gunning. But with my COVID plan, I said it's going to be a 3-year effect, and we're going to have to figure out how to deal with this for the next 3 years. And then kind of by year 3, we'll be at where we need to be. So year 1's done. This year 2, optimistically seems like it's going to be going in the right direction, but we're starting from slipping off the top. Like at the end of 2020, we fell off the top rope. 2021, we are building our way back. But you can't just get to here. You have to do every step along the way.
God, life mimics art.
That's what I'm doing in AEW every step along the way. That's why you see me grinding it out on Dark, fighting through adversity, fighting through challenges, physical, like wrestling guys twice my size. I mean, I took on Brian Cage or Eddie Kingston at a moment's notice. I didn't know I was wrestling Eddie Kingston till the night before, but did I hesitate to take that match? Absolutely not. Did I think I could win it? Of course I did, because I always have that moment. And I'm always trying to make that moment where we can have fans jump out of their seats. And usually when I take my chances and we get fans on the edge of their seats, they pay off. But I'm not going to stop taking risks. In wrestling, I'm not going to stop taking risks because they didn't pay off. However, outside of the ring, I am not taking any risks when it comes to coronavirus.
Good job. Stay safe, man.
Very well said. Very well said, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you have a school. It's a little tricky now with COVID and whatnot, but do you find yourself coaching at all when you're at AEW, like helping out the younger guys that are coming up or any of that?
I do. I love coaching and I love helping my students. But I find myself asking for coaching when I'm at AEW. And that's the point of being at a place like AEW. It's where I can go to annoy guys like Dean Malenko and pester them for some little nugget of knowledge that they kind of want to tell you, but kind of don't. And it's really the best part. I mean, like Tully Blanchard backstage, we just have so many guys that I'm able to look to. Guys looked up to, when I first was an indie wrestler in St. Louis, Colt Cabana was like this big Chicago indie guy that we always looked up to, and having him in the locker room with us all the time is great. And I learned like I watch guys like Ray Phoenix wrestle, and it always inspires me to be better. I mean, so there are people I coach, but I mean, I'm just kind of swimming in a sea of exchange of ideas. So I'll always throw out my idea, but it's just sort of something for them to like play with, maybe mold around and use later. But I always have great conversations with some of the young talent. There's a lot of really good wrestlers with under 5 years experience. And I would say that they're more like, I'm impressed with how many good wrestlers that have less than 5 years I see at AEW all the time. I think that's kind of from the Nightmare Factory, but I will say that some of my side dojo students have held their own as well in AEW dark matches. But I really like, I'll talk wrestling with anyone, anytime, anywhere, and I'll never shut up. If we keep going, this podcast will be eternal. I mean, it'll be till Shivani falls asleep in front of the mic.
And I'll just be sitting here. That's just fascinating.
I mean, I get wound up. I'm extremely passionate, and I love sharing what I love with other people. That's sort of the crux of my life. So
we are talking with Matt Sydal on AEW Unrestricted. We're going to go back and talk about his beginnings in pro wrestling. AEW Unrestricted, talking with Matt Sydal. Matt, you mentioned when you talked about Cody, you mentioned he was a classic wrestler and you were a backyard wrestler. Talk about your days. You built your own ring in the backyard, started on a trampoline. How did your parents agree to do to all of that?
Well, my mom had one very strict rule, which was don't get hurt. And I literally went from starting doing backyard at 14 or something like that, all the way till I broke my arm once at IWA Mid-South doing like a shooting star press leg drop. But in the backyard, it's completely safe. And I mean, I really went 8 or 9 years before I had my first serious, like my first ankle injury. So that, I kind of followed the rules that mom set. But we did get kicked out of the backyard for having a bit of a bloodbath one time, the big main event. And that was and I was with one of my brother's friends who was older. So it was time to move on. And they had encouraged me to find a local indie where I could train. And I found out about independent wrestling through a wrestling radio show that we had in St. Louis called The Stranglehold with Brian Stull. And it was like a call-in radio show where they discussed wrestling on the local like sports radio channel. So that's sort of like, I don't know, it put wrestling in a more, I didn't realize how carny it was. It seemed like a professional thing as I dug into this independent wrestling. But I found a local training center that that charged me so much money. I mean, I think about what I charge these guys now. It's like nothing. I can't charge. If I could give it away for free, I would. We just make enough to pay the rent and have some fun. But yeah. So I started at a local indie fed, but I kind of had a cocky, arrogant backyard attitude because I wrestled for other backyard federations. I don't know if you guys read the Bucks book yet.
Yes.
Not yet.
But
yes, I did.
I would say I'm just very similar to Matt in that we just walked in from the backyard to these other independent feds and just thought we were great, thought we knew everything, thought we could go. And, we were lucky enough, like him, to come under some other independent wrestlers that really helped us out, that like gave us the one-on-one teaching and guidance that we needed to like not get off track and kind of to move forward out of our local bubble into bigger opportunities.
So did you, I think you had mentioned in there, were you a tape trader as well? Were you one of those guys?
Yes, but not like I'm not a collector. I don't. Gotcha. Do you see any action figures? Do you see the belt? Like, I'm not about just like, I don't necessarily need the memento to have the experience. I just kind of live it and then keep going. Sometimes I even forget the question that was asked. What was it like? Do I have?
You were a tape trader. Was there anything that like you particularly were like looking for?
Well, yes. Great question. What did Matt Sydal order when he was a young up and coming wrestler? Japanese death matches.
Yeah,
that's what got me started on tape trading. Is when I found out about these crazy death matches like Onita, we got a friend of mine, the neighbor up the street, got a couple ECW tapes, and that's what got us going with ECW. And then eventually I found like the Best of the Super Juniors '94, and then that's when like my eyes really opened. And then it was this special tape trader named Delirious who was the one that first got us Toryumon tapes. And that's when my brain began to explode with the possibilities that wrestling could be. And that like my time with Delirious was the most he was the most influential on me in my entire career.
Damn.
Most influential person.
Delirious it was.
Yes.
Okay, a tape trader.
Yeah, yes, a tape trader who went on to become a pro wrestler, a very skilled, great grappler. He's the head trainer at the Ring of Honor school for quite some time.
Got you. Okay. You also said, speaking of honor, you said that your New Japan Pro Wrestling Tag Team Championship with Ricochet was an honor for you. Why does that one mean so much?
Oh, well, I mean, the moments we created in the match and the lead up to it, just it really felt like I was out there doing my true purpose. We were wrestling like that. New Japan Junior Tag Championship run was a sort of a four-way feud between myself and Ricochet, the Young Bucks, Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta, and Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. And these were matches that I was proud of every single night. We were just smashing it. We were just busting each other up, having wild shootout matches that we really believed in. We were really proud of. We were all working really hard. And wrestling in Japan has always been special to me. It's kind of where my career went from. I was going to be a wrestler on the side, a weekend warrior, to a full-time pro wrestler when I started at Dragon Gate. And that's kind of where I got like my highest set of skills. And to go back with New Japan, like there was a moment where after WWE, I was considering being kind of done with wrestling, or I was questioning what I wanted to do. But I had this, I don't want to call it a vision, but I had a moment where I saw myself going to the Tokyo Dome Hotel. And the Tokyo Dome Hotel is right next to Korakuen Hall, one of my favorite places to wrestle. And I just kind of held that image in my head for a really long time. And so going back with New Japan and getting to wrestle at Korakuen Hall, it means more to me than just like, it's not like a goal you set. It's like a place that has an energy, a feeling that you want to be a part of. And like, I got to return there. And when we had these matches, like, I mean, look them up, my friends. Me and Ricochet are a great tag team. We were really in the flow, and the matches we had with the Bucks and those guys were fantastic. Great memories and just really great times. The great kind of travel, good food, good people, good times. One time for Halloween, I went to Don Quixote and bought like 30 different Halloween costumes and gave it to everybody on the bus. I mean, we were generally like making the most of our time on the road, having as much fun as we can, but really focused on being the best pro wrestlers we could be. And I think that's what really launched me into like my next higher level of wrestling.
Damn. So speaking of higher level of wrestling, you've done WrestleMania, you've done Wrestle Kingdom, you've done Bound for Glory, you've done All Out. You're just knocking them all off the list. Is there anything that's on your wrestling bucket list that you haven't done yet?
Well, I have to add Dragon Gate Kobe World, because that was the first big show I did, the first time I ever wrestled in front of like 10,000 people. So I always just want to throw that one out there. But yeah, I mean, I look at all the letters that my name's been next to, like ROH Final Battles, all these times, and I'm just like, every time I'm in disbelief, because I still feel like that kid who was so small he got beat up at wrestling practice every Tuesday and Thursday for years, and I just still enjoy it and have that same passion. It has wavered. There have been crests and troughs. There has always been the mountain always has like the other side to it, and I've experienced both sides, and I keep climbing, I keep seeking, I keep really finding myself in that ring. That's like the place where I'm the happiest. If I could just sleep on the mats outside, I would be quite content. You know, I'm not a man who needs much. I just need to recover between my matches and train. And, I've got a nice family and support system here. So we're going to keep on trucking.
WWE called you for a tryout. You got a contract with OVW. 3 months later, you were their heavyweight champion and then moved to Florida 3 months after that. What do you attribute to that rapid success in the WWE developmental at that time?
That was because the champ at the time, or the next contender, got hurt, and I was a great slide and
opportunity.
Nothing like, no moments in wrestling are ever really like that, with that much foresight and planning, and just the moments they present themselves, and good bookers just capitalize on that moment as it unfolds. And my time at OVW, I was just like, everybody there wrestled like an OVW wrestler. Everybody trained the same way. Everybody did like put baby oil on in their underwear and did like kind of okay arm drags. It was a place where I stood out. Nobody was wearing kick pads with shells over the knee. Nobody was wearing like nobody had the costume. Nobody had like the moves. I even used like some Dragon Gate entrance music that like Ryo Saito's old music. Like, I was just a Dragon Gate wrestler when I got there. And so I think that really differentiated me. And then I wrestled the guys there like Sean Spears and Mike Cruel that were just extraordinary pros. And that's when I started to be able to like adapt and modify. And actually, like, that's why I really love my match with Spears that we had on that Late Night Dynamite, because it was just the continuation of a battle he and I have been having for, over 10 years. When I got to OVW, he was such an example of who to pay attention to, because you could tell that he had star power. And in fact, I couldn't believe when he got fired, it was madness, because he and I tore it up and it was so easy. And my matches with Mike Cruel, and these matches were a perfect yang to the yin that I had in Dragon Gate. And I got acclimated. Then we came down to Florida. I mean, I can go on about all these stories, because basically, I was not a favorite. I was not a chosen one. I was not a favorite of the coaches of anyone ever. But I tricked WWE into booking me at a show, because I told them I was coming to it. They told me, no, don't come to it. And I said, well, I'm going to go home. I'm going to see my family. Just so happens to be on the days of these shows in Kansas City and St. Louis. So maybe I could just go backstage. I've never been backstage. This is all prompted from a random indie wrestler who called me and said, hey, Matt, can you get me a dark match? And I thought to myself, I've never had a dark match. I've never been backstage. I've been under contract for, it was like 8 months at that time. And so I took it upon myself to get backstage. And I wrestled Jamie Noble wrestled around before the show. And then the next night they made me the dark match against Jamie Noble. And then they took that momentum, and on that Tuesday night, I debuted on ECW as Matt Sydal, and Shelton Benjamin powerbombed me like onto Kofi through like the announce chair. It was wild. But when I get the momentum going, people feel it, people jump on. And I just had to find a way to spark that momentum, because I knew it wasn't going to come through the system. I always have to work from the outside in. Yeah. And so that was my way of virtually calling myself up to the big show and saying, here I am, let's see what happens. And, I had a great successful run there, and it's only led to more things, because WWE kind of showed me how powerful wrestling is as a vehicle, and I've been able to kind of harness that. Now I have all these opportunities at AEW. I get the chance to talk with you two wonderful human beings, and I just really feel like, having a life every day that I get to live life as a professional wrestler is a great day. And I mean, I'm just forever thankful for all these opportunities that keep coming my way, even though when you look at the outside, I'm not your stereotypical wrestler. And I think what I'm most proud of is when people look at me now and I tell them I'm a wrestler, no, people don't say you're too small, because this is what a wrestler looks like now. We look like Cody Rhodes. We look like Nick Jackson, Matt Jackson. We're not all the same cookie cutter anymore. And I'm really proud to have been a part of that shift, that change, part of the energy that's been moving things in a new direction.
I think it's really interesting, given that like your first night on ECW, you get powerbombed into Kofi Kingston, and then you guys had the great run that you did. It was almost like a foreshadowing. I don't know. I think I've told you before, you were one of the, like, when I first started watching wrestling, I think you were holding the titles with Kofi at the time, and I was immediately like, this guy's fucking great. Like, I don't know what it is, because I don't know anything about wrestling, but I'm like, man, anytime he's on TV, this is fantastic. Like, he does all these cool flips and shit. This is amazing. So, I don't know, just a little, let me inflate your ego a little bit.
No, that means a lot. I mean, that's my goal when I wrestle is there's a particular set of humans that I wrestle for. I wrestle for the wrestling fan who loves wrestling and finally convince their friends who don't care to sit down and watch. And so now if I can combine something that people from both of these ends of the spectrum can really enjoy and can just sit down and have fun and just take their mind, turn it off, and just enjoy, then that's what I'm going for every time. So the fact that like every night I'm going out for the new fans, the fans that are already there supporting me, like I'm going to make sure they get what they want too. But I'm thinking about people who've never considered pro wrestling, people who just, because to me, it's not about like, pro wrestling isn't a particular thing. It's like, there's no one way to do it. There's no right way. There's no wrong way. There's just, what can I give people who are in the crowd that will make them enjoy wrestling the same way I loved wrestling when I was young, the same way wrestling jumped through the TV and grab me when I saw like Tajiri versus Super Crazy.
Oh.
I want people to feel that. Like, and so for me, you can't break it down into like, oh, well, it's definitely much more of an intangible, a feeling that I'm trying to get across. So I'm glad you feeling me, Aubrey. I'm feeling you. I'm feeling the love.
Well, let me say this. I'm feeling you too. And the
Thank
reason
you,
I say
Tony.
that is
Love you,
you
man.
are a guy who obviously you made your own breaks, right? I mean, and that says a lot about you as a person. You said, I'm going to show up anyway. And you ended up being in a dark match and it jump-started your career. That says a lot about you as a person. Perseverance. I mean, so many words we can use about that, but I've always been a person that thinks that you make your own breaks by just being around. And you're the living proof of that, buddy.
Yeah, that's the gospel, man, because wise men told me you got to be there. You know, you have to be you have to be around. Otherwise, you're easily forgotten, or just, you have to take the chance and put yourself out there. Otherwise, because nothing will come to you and nobody owes you anything. I mean, it's wrestling. If I'm in charge, I'm going to book my friends instead of you. If I don't know you, like, what does it matter? Because it's really the end of wrestling is really, it's about having fun. It's about putting out a product that you enjoy and, hopefully everybody else enjoys. So, the cool thing about wrestling is that the wrestlers have only gotten better through the years. Like, it used to be a little bit harder to find guys who spoke the same language as me, the same wrestling language. But now every locker room I go into, it's these people who've got the same intentions. We just want to have the craziest match we can for the fans and still walk the next day. That's what we're going for. But if we go, like, when you go that time, like during COVID, when you have these month or 2 or 3 where you're not getting hit, you miss it. Where you're not getting kicked around, where you're not getting, like, it's something that at our core we need. So, like, that's why when I'm getting beat up in a match, things aren't going bad. That's going according to plan, because you expect to take damage. You expect these things. And in fact, if you wrestle long enough, you come to enjoy all the aspects of it, both the victory and the defeat, the pain and the agony, because, like, the same thing, like anxiety before a match is always there until I realize, oh, this is the feeling of excitement. This is what being excited feels like. Sometimes you do fall into that anxious feel, but when I remember, like, hey, this is excitement and let's go out there and be exciting, that's what I really step into myself, and I've got that confidence and that lack of hesitation in the ring.
Speaking of exciting, we have coming up for Matt Sydal, questions from the fans.
Hooray. This is AEW Unrestricted. Tony and Aubrey talking to the one and only Matt Sydal. We've got a number of fan questions for Matt. Thanks to everyone who submitted these on Twitter. First up, Hope Glory 3 asks, as well as amazing singles action, you had a successful part of a tag team action, notably IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champion with Ricochet. Would you ever consider creating a tag team in AEW? And if so, who would be your partner?
Yes. Well, thank you, Hope 001000101 for the question. So yes, here's a secret about Matt Sydal. I don't think it's a secret, but tag wrestling and 6-man tags are my favorite type of matches. I love them because there's so many extra variables. It's exponentially more complicated and chaotic and fun because it gives me a lot more opportunities to inject my madness into a match. So yes, tag wrestling is amazingly and wonderfully, beautifully featured in AEW. There are the greatest tag teams in the world in AEW, from the Bucks to TH2 to, my gosh, Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, FTR. It goes on and on. Jurassic Express, Trent and Dustin, LA, Santana and Ortiz. Okay, enough. Okay, yes. Yeah. Tag wrestling, I'm all about it. The tag partners that I love, Ricochet is number one, but I also have my brother Mike Sydal, who is a great grappler, trained at Dragon Gate, and he's a guy that I would love to tag with someday at AEW. But 6-man tags, that'll be something that in time, I will just flow right into that role, and we will really have some exciting matches on Dynamite with those tag matches, 6-man tags. But till then, give me singles because, like I said, TNT Championship is pulling me towards it.
Yeah.
All right. At Jen Kenshin on Twitter says, how important is it to innovate more in the ring and adapt new styles and moves when it comes to your longevity?
Yes. Well, I put enough pressure on myself to be the crest of the wave of innovation in this business. Although sometimes I find myself falling into old patterns, I try and unlearn those patterns and re-examine things from a fresh perspective. And yeah, training in the ring is actually really fun because every week I'm coming up with new techniques, new holds. I mean, I have pins that are completely brand new that people have never seen. And then I'll also unearth some old stuff of mine that hasn't seen the light of day in quite some time, because it just all depends on who I'm wrestling. So yeah, I'm always thinking of the next way to tie somebody like a pretzel.
Wonderful. TJ Sharp 94 on Twitter says, what is the inspiration for the third eye gimmick? And how do you think it would be received when first used in front of a massive live audience?
Yes, well, I'm pretty sure people love it.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, dude. It's a great question, because the third eye gimmick, it's great that people call it the third eye gimmick, because I never once said that. It's a movement from the people to me. So I was putting out whatever vibe I put out, and people were listening to the things I say. Think for yourself and question everything, peace, love, pro wrestling. And people started to think about that and associate that with the third eye. The third eye meaning the eye that looks inward. And, we are like a car with headlights always pointed outward, but our headlights don't mean we know how the engine works, how anything else works on the inside. So the idea with the third eye is basically that inside of you is where to look for the answers, not from external things. Because if you look for answers externally, you'll always be looking for them. But inside you, you also have like a vastness and a deepness. And if you're able to strip away all the outside stuff, you can connect deeper with yourself. And then when you go through the world, you're more yourself vibing outward rather than being somebody who's just always receiving the messages. So it's sort of like a way to be the opposite of everything. I mean, sort of whatever people expect, I want to deliver the opposite. If people want me to do high flying wrestling, I'm going to go do a hardcore match. If they want me, I just want to give you the opposite answer. Because when I do interviews like this, sometimes I'll do a podcast with, let's say, a less skilled host and a pair of hosts. And I'll get questions where I just want to give the opposite answer, because hearing the same answer over and over eventually gives you nausea. And so I like to keep people on their toes with stuff like that. And just the more I can think outside the box, which is also sort of that third eye thinking, but really, again, the third eye gimmick isn't mine. It's the fans that I'm able to say, this is how they feel me. This is how they hear me. This is how they see me. But it's it's not the thing that's verbal. It's a feeling. It's like it's an ineffable feeling.
Okay.
Sorry, rambling answer. Yeah.
No, I think I got a few answers in there.
Yeah.
Pavlovsky on Twitter. Any future work coming with Chaos Project?
Oh, yes. Future violence against Chaos Project is incoming. The thing about Chaos Project is they are both lovable and hateable.
Oh,
because
so
I feel like, again, we're preaching the same things, but from a different perspective. Because there's just different planes of consciousness that people experience their ordinary life. Like, obviously, Dr. Luther's ordinary consciousness is different than yours or mine or whatever. But I can also get to that plane of thinking, that plane of existence where everything is crazy and you do need to be mad about it. So I can both relate to them, but I think, the match I had with Serpentico is possibly my favorite match that I've had on AEW Dark. And so I look forward to finding a tag partner like my brother, Mike Sydal, who could come in and wrestle the both of them and sort of show them the Sydalic mentality is superior to the chaos.
Man. Yeah, that was
I'm writing down Sydalic mentality.
Yes.
Because that's
Keep
cool.
it Sydalic here.
He'll use that in between all of his, you're right, JR, and you're right, Excalibur.
Yeah.
Hey, Excalibur is usually right. So, these guys are depressed.
Not as much as he thinks he is, though. So, Aubrey, it's your turn.
All
Go
right.
get him.
E-Kid Marquez on Twitter says, how much planning went into the Shooting Star press into the RKO that you did with Randy Orton, and will you ever try and top it?
I'll never tell. It just happened on the fly. Shut up. Don't ask questions like that. No.
Just call it in the ring, brother.
Hey, when two guys have their finishing moves it doesn't take much to say, I'll do this and you do that. I mean, you don't need much more guidance. And if he doesn't give me the cutter, I'm going to just try and crash land on him. But yeah, yeah, that's just one of those moments. I'm so happy that people I'm always trying to make that moment where people jump out of their seat. And, but those moments, I never can take credit for them, because that's like the camera crew that filmed it, the people that went on before us, all these things prime that engine for that moment. But I'm telling you, the way that was shot was magnificent. It was done so well that the cool stunt was amplified by the person doing it, because Randy Orton was in that match, and also by the really awesome camera work of that crew. They really captured that moment. And so I just jumped. My role's insignificant. I just jumped.
All right, this is a great question, because we asked this to Scorpio Sky as well. Greco on Twitter wants to know any stories from your time on MTV's Wrestling Society X.
Yes, well, I wrestled Scorpio Sky on Wrestling Society X. We had a banger. Right. I mean, I'm not saying he's been good for a while, but he's been good for a while. You know what I mean? I don't know. I never slept on people. People slept on Scorp. It's not me. Yeah, Wrestling Society X was awesome. What was awesome was I got to bring some of the Dragon Gate guys in, so I was able to pay my Japanese friends back for all of that they gave me. I was able to get them hooked up with this fun project, and it was cool because it was in the same mentality we had: do it yourself, create your own thing, don't rely on anybody else to give you the job, create your own. It was great. It's my first entrance to show business. Got a really carny contract. Got told all these, I don't want to call them lies, but you're going to be a star. We're going to make DVDs of you. See this. This is going to be you someday. Yeah. But that I never bought into, and I just enjoyed telling my friends, you wouldn't believe they told me I'm going to be the next Jeff Hardy or Matt Hardy. I'm like, there's no way that's going to be me. I'm not that good. But it was on the right path, and it was just a cool project. It was one of my first times out in LA ever in my entire life. So it was outside of the couple PWG matches that I had. It was just an epic platform to get going on. And then we saw it become eventually, sort of in some way, shape or form, Lucha Underground, which then gave way to getting Ray Phoenix and Pentagon to AEW. So it's
oh man. And those guys, man.
That's sort of all part of that same channel. But I really strongly, just a quick, sorry fan question that had nothing to do with your question, but I just want to put over Lucha Libre and let everybody know they're on alert. If we don't keep up with how good the luchadors are, we'll fall behind. There's some amazing guys, and they will be coming in AEW soon. I wouldn't be surprised to see the lucha influence grow. It was there in WSX. It's there in Lucha Underground. And they are really special pro wrestlers. Lucha Libre is alive and well, and you can't take your eyes off it. You can't take your eyes off Ray Phoenix. So I just really see a great sea change happening, where the internationalization of all wrestling continues to occur, and there's even more international stars on AEW and all over the world of wrestling.
Damn. All right. We're going to end this with the hardest hitting question you've ever gotten. You ready? Ken Mathis on Twitter asks, what is your preferred toilet paper orientation? Over or under?
How dare he? How dare he? Oh, and the fact that he said it publicly on Twitter, I imagine you should get banned from Twitter for that. Shivani, and in all your years, has anyone had such a nonsensical question?
That's the worst question I've ever heard. And I've heard some bad ones.
The only question worse is, how did it feel when you took that RKO? And you already asked that one. I will fire up on everybody. No, I will. I do not talk about my personal life.
Right.
That's it. That is
how
it.
I wipe my ass is my business.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very private.
One foot at a time.
I mean, we get pretty unrestricted here, but I think that's crossing the line a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, thanks, buddy. It's been a treat talking to you.
Thank you, guys. Really when you run out of guests again, and I'm always here for you, okay?
Oh,
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, man.
Love you guys.
This has been fantastic. You can follow Matt on Instagram at Matt Sydal and on Twitter at FindEvan. Also, subscribe to AEW Unrestricted Podcast for free wherever you get your podcasts. You can also check out the video version of our podcast on YouTube. Just go to the little search bar, type in AEW Unrestricted, and then watch all the cool shit.
ShopAEW.com.
Hell yeah! Look at that.
Thank you, guys.
Don't forget to tune in to Dynamite each and every Wednesday, 8, 7 Central on TNT. I'm Tony Schiavone.
I'm Aubrey Edwards.
Thank you for listening to
AEW Unrestricted.